pad size, shape, and site plotting for the location of the pad and the sand filter. So basically we were waiting 4 to 6 months, and somehow it never left, I know the names, but one desk to the next desk down there. And had I not got a hold of Billy Jones' office to have him see how that was progressing, I wouldn't even known that it hadn't moved. So that's been rectified. It's now sitting on the right desk. I just did a whole bunch of paperwork for that over the last week. Once you and I do our final signatures on DocuSign, then that will go to their lawyer, and from there it will go to the legislation to sign off of. So that hopefully should be coming quickly. NICEC is, I talked to Troy just for a catch up on that. NICEC is working on the final approval to place decorative street lights up at Shane Avenue, Darren Avenue, and the remainder of Joyce Avenue in Hilltop Estates. These lights, I am told, will be bought and installed by NICEC at no cost to the town, as long as no special work is required to install them. Troy will keep me abreast of the project as it moves forward. So he's gonna, their line crews will go up there, their street light crews, will go up there. They'll place out where things look like they should be, and if they feel that they need another transformer or they have to go bore underneath the road from one side to the other, there would be added cost. So we're going to try to keep everything on one side of the road up through there, and hopefully if we have to do a transformer, we have to do a transformer, and that would be an upcharge. They won't pay for that. But they will go with the decorative lighting up there, and that was a sticking point for the people that lived up there. That's all underground service, and there was already decorative lighting. So when I found out that they'll now put decorative up there, I jumped on it. I'll let you know how that goes. We are still on the short list for congressional funding and have been added to the federal budget. We are waiting to make sure it is not cut out before the final adoption, as it has been explained to me. The 2023 WIA grant and federal infrastructure grant monies will have both also been applied for at the end of this month. So I wanted to give you guys an update on that email. This will be the congressional funding. Sorry. This one should have been theirs. So as you can see, we're still on the short list of funding at the federal level. That one's $2,562,500. So we'll see how that goes, and I just wanted to give you an update on that. It's not ours until they give me the documentation saying it's ours, but we're moving through the progress. We're moving through the process. There's Mikey, they didn't have one for me. I'll trade back with you. That's nice. Everybody should have one now.
You gave me one already.
Okay.
This is for which project?
That's the Morsel Water Project.
$38 million.
Yeah, it's 6 million something, but with the contingency funding, we put in for 8.1. But the project's 6 million some odd thousand. We actually put in almost a 27% overrun on the project, which gives us a little over probably $1.5 million of contingency money for overrun.
Would anything be deducted if we got this one? Is this the one? Yeah.
There's that one there. I'm working with Jonathan Carmen from Elise Stephanic's office, and they're earmarked funds. So they used to be earmarked funds, did not count against any grants. But now the feds out of that office don't want to deal with the money. So usually they funnel the earmarked funds through one of the other, USDARD or CDBG or one of those that usually handle them all. So what he's trying to find out right now, and he's working towards, is to make sure that these funds don't deduct from the 1.3 that USDA already had. The other update that we'll talk about in a minute, we got some, maybe some help there too, but we'll see how things go. So the process, like I said, is playing out. Let's see where it goes. As I get solidified numbers, I will definitely let everybody know. Okay, but right now, it's still looking like we're in play. It is, we are in play for that congressional. That's only one. We're also, like I said, put in for the WIA grant again. That got refunded this year. It went from 5 million up to 11 million. 60% funded. I can't tell you whether we'll get it or not naturally. And we still have the Biden bill, which is the infrastructure bill, and New York State got a pretty healthy chunk of money out of that federal infrastructure bill, and we're applying for those two right now, the WIA and infrastructure. So we'll see how that goes. But I got tons of paperwork I'm doing in the meantime to keep that project active. We're still working, which brings me to this one. We're still working with County and Casella for an agreement to bring a water line to the residents with contaminated wells on the Sand Road. All homes along the route will be able to tap into this new water main. I have a meeting Thursday morning with Mike Zerlo and a few others at the great big round table down there, and we will have a draft agreement that they will hand me. I did see a preliminary draft agreement that they gave me yesterday. I forwarded that to Bill Ryan and to RJ to look at to make sure that I didn't miss anything. I can tell you already that Mr. Ryan already did a couple markups on that first draft. And I'm sure we'll go back and forth a couple more times before we get it solidified. But I'll get you councilmen up to speed at the next work session and show you where we're at with that. But that's moving forward, and that will help not only those people but everybody on that road. It looks like we're going to be between picking up maybe 60 to 70 homes with water on the Sand Road altogether. That's what they're looking at. So, including the park up there, the trailer park. If it wasn't for that trailer park on the Sand Road, I will tell you, they wouldn't even be able to apply for this grant, because they're going after the WIA grant too. That, because there was more than 5 homes in that park, made that a municipal water system on its own. So that made it eligible for the PFOA, PFOS, determination of WIA. So that actually helped everybody in that area. And that's what I was talking about, Mike. We will be finishing up the crosswalks at Maple Street, Maple Street and Emery, and Church Street and Emery within the next week or so. All the crosswalks planned for this year have been installed. We still have to paint, share the road signs on River Street and on Sand Road. We plan to finish them up by hopefully fall this year. So we got the stencil. I got a paint sprayer too. We could try doing that, or we can use Greg's. I don't care what one we use. Those we're definitely gonna have to spray on, and we'll be there forever. Those other two, like I was saying right here on Maple and Church Street, that'll finish up this whole thing. Next year, I'll work on the state to get an agreement like I did down here at the 3 intersections was 22B, to get work an easement to work and see what they'll do up in Scholar Falls to get those done. And then we can look at Woods Mills at the same time, because there won't be as many as down here in the village. But we'll try to get those squared away next year. And in the meantime, we'll get those share the road signs out with the bicycle and the chevrons. So I'll get with you to do that again.
One thing I noticed is the stop line at the end of Emery and 22B is right in the middle of the crosswalk now, so you have to come back, put a new stop line down.
Actually, that happened at Maple Street too, the end of Maple Street.
Yeah.
So we'll move the crosswalk bar, or the stop bars, if you will. we can move that, we can use that other stencil, I believe, for that one. That's the one that they originally sent for the crosswalk. So we'll rectify that, but yeah. We were like, we lined those up, we were like, sidewalk to sidewalk, that's where it's gotta be. So, but, Mom said never play in the road, I played in the road for 10 hours with those guys that day.
Try 39 years.
Yeah, I know. But I appreciate it, it looks good, and I've got quite a few good comments on it. Okay, so just so everybody's aware, I think everybody is, looks like the big Association of Town training is New York City, Marriott, February 19th through the 22nd of 2023. The rates are here, stay rates and the rates to attend the classes and what the classes are. So, or the classes look like they're online. Excuse me. So what I would do is ask everybody to make sure by September you come back with whether or not you are going to attend this one, or as far as I know, unless I jump in with Reggie on this one, there's a planning and zoning school registration for Lake Placid in October. So that one's Thursday, October 6th, 22. And I would like to have all the names of who's going and what they think they're going to. So in September meeting, we can do a resolution to pay for the bills on it. Okay? We do have it in the budget. All right?
Is it being opened again to planning board and zoning board members?
Yeah, the planning
As
board
in the
and
past?
the zoning board each got a copy of this way back on 750.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah, so any town employee within their respective color of duty. Alright, I think that was it for my stuff. Unfinished business. New business. I bring us a resolution. Hand these out because we're gonna get to this resolution pretty quick. That way you got it ahead of time. So I took the liberty today of making copies of the recent changes on the contract for the highway and the old although it says 2023 on here, these are the changes from the old contract. This is a version of the new contract with the changes in it, and this was the last negotiated meeting that Mike and Mr. Gotti, I should say, and Mr. Newton worked on, and thank you very much for what you did with that, because I know that's a bear to do. So here you go. I'll give you them. That way you have them when we look at it.
Sorry.
Where Mr. McCormick, that's all everything. And I apologize when I sent that to you the first time, I didn't send you the first contract, because you were like, oh, it's hard to compare, and we got nothing to compare it to.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But that has it all in there. I apologize, that was my bad. Mr. Snyder, hand that to him. You wanna give this to David A. Melton? Up at the garage, he's a steward, and that one I'll keep for mine. Alright, I think I'm gonna take care of that. Alright, first resolution. Resolution 2266. Motion by, whereas the town board of the town of Schuyler Falls is anticipating that the budget for the fiscal year 2023 will require a real property tax levy in excess of the tax levy limit as defined by General Municipal Law 3C, and whereas a local law is required pursuant to subdivision 5 of General Municipal Law 3C to authorize the town board to override the tax levy limit by the adoption of a local law approved by vote of 60% of the town board, so be it therefore resolved that the local law number 2 for the year 2022, entitled "A Local Law to Override the Tax Levy Limit Established in General Municipal Law 3C," is duly introduced, and be it therefore resolved that a public hearing on said proposed local law number 2 will be held at the Town Hall on Tuesday, September 27th at 5:45 p.m., where the public will be allowed the opportunity to voice comments for or against said law. So again, we need to have a public hearing on that, and then if the board likes, we would adopt local law 2 of 2022. Again, even though this thing reads that we are going over the anticipated tax levy, the only reason we're going to do that is to move money, quite a bit of money, out of the, it will allow us to move it out of the unallocated general fund and utilize it for capital improvement projects. Because if we don't put it in the budget, I can't do it. And the comptroller's office isn't gonna like it if I, a month and a half, 2 months into the year, say all of a sudden I'm gonna move $1.5 million into 2023's budget after we gave them things saying we stayed under the tax cap. So it's easier to just do it this way. All right?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. Newland, second. Mr. Bruno, discussion?
Yeah, what I'm wondering, I'm a little confused, Tom.
Okay.
And my confusion is, we haven't yet had a budget meeting of any kind,
Yep.
and is there, no, I assume it's 3%, isn't it?
2.
It's 2%. So,
Sometimes it's 1.6 and sometimes it's 1.1 or whatever they come up with. They call it 2% tax cap.
is there a time frame
Now.
in doing this?
We have to have it before the budget is approved.
Or we can't
Every
do it.
year.
Already did it last year.
We didn't do it last year. Every year, this should be done, because if for some reason your expenses go over 2%, then you need to have this done. And in the state, New York State Controller's Office by October, so that you could pass your budget in November.
So when Rick Potiker was supervisor, he used to do this every year just in case. They gave him the board the luxury of going over 2%.
And most boards do that.
And most boards do. I haven't did it in the 2 years that I've been down here because there was no need to. But I've been telling everybody for the last 3 or 4 months that this would be the year that I would do it, so that I could spend some of the money out of the unallocated cap reserve, which we then put into our budget. So then we can do capital improvement projects, like we talked about doing, like you might want to do maybe 100,000 more paving for the highway department. We gave him $50,000 extra last year in his paving, and it took 4 days to straighten out our budget to stay underneath the 2% tax cap. Unlike a school district where they can do a capital improvement project and it doesn't affect the 2% tax cap, our whole budget is inclusive of a 2% tax cap based on 3 different criteria. And without going into a lot of explanation on it, it took us 4 days to make sure our budget was going to be all right. And that's when I had to reduce the general fund tax down to, I forget what we moved it down to, 34 cents from 40 something cents to equalize the budget to stay under the tax cap. Because I didn't realize, and I'm learning every year, I didn't realize that if the money was already in our account and we transferred it over, it still goes against the 2% tax cap because it's in your overall budget. If schools, it doesn't, but us it does. So this will allow us to start using some of that $2 million plus that are in the unallocated fund reserve, so that we can start doing capital improvement projects, just like you said. We could even use it on, the garage floor. If we come up with when we rebid it again around March of this year, and say it comes in at 180,000 or 200,000 again, at least we can use some of the money in the unallocated fund reserve to offset some of that. And we're actually going to need it because the ARPA funds go into the general fund. the unallocated general fund. So when we start pulling that money out of there, we need to be able to know that we're all right. So if we pass this, then we can do those capital improvements. I don't foresee it's gonna raise the general fund tax, or I don't know what Mikey's highway fund is gonna be this year, but I don't foresee it raising any of that. It's just, it will allow us to transfer those monies. Did that explain it hopefully to everyone? All right, so any more further discussion? And then roll call.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Facto?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes, so motion is carried. All right, resolution 2267. A motion by, whereas the annual New York State Association of Magistrate Court Clerk Conference and Training will be held on 10/14/22 through 10/19/22 at the Crown Plaza in Albany, New York. Whereas Donna Hamill and Mary Sorrell, court clerks, would like to attend the training, be it therefore resolved that the town board authorizes the attendance of said conference and expenses will be charged to the general fund as provided for in the 2022 budget. Can I get a motion? Or in discussion, I should say this, the cost to the town, of the town registration is $75 plus mileage, meals, and hotel and accommodation. Okay, so just like when we went to New York City or any of the ones. They'll have to submit a voucher for their mileage, keep track of it. And we use state rate on their meals. And they'll get state rate on accommodation. Any other discussion?
I'll make the motion.
All right, Mr. Newman. I'll second it. All right, roll call.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Facto?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes, the motion's carried. Excuse me. The resolution is carried. All right, resolution 22-68. A motion by, be it resolved that the town of Schuyler Falls Town Board authorizes Kevin Randall, town supervisor, to act as certifying officer for the town's office for community service, development block grant, project TBD Housing Rehabilitation Program. So this is under discussion, this is a mandated, update. After we do these, we're doing them separate. We did them for the CDBGs in the past after talking to Nancy at LaBerge. If we do the generals without putting in some of the things on the other couple of resolutions we gotta pass tonight, we won't have to do this every time we apply for a CDBG grant. But so that we can get this one through, this is required as part of the CDBG paperwork. Like I said, I knew that going in. They're paper intensive. So can I get a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Parati,
Second.
Mr. Newman, roll call.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Facto?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yeah. So approved. There's gonna be a lot of them. There's all CDBG stuff. Motion by, be it resolved that the town of Schuyler Falls Town Board determines the environmental review record to be classified a type 2 action, 6 NYCRR section 617.4 and 617.5 for the town's Office of Community Development Block Grant. Project TBD Housing Replacement Program classification of type 2 action was determined based on review of, this is a website, https www.dec.newyork.gov/PERMIT permits /32521.htm1 dot. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
By Mr. Parati,
Second.
by Mr. Bruno. Roll call.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Facto?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes. So carried. This is another one. Resolution 22-70. Motion by, be resolved that the town of Schuyler Falls Town Board authorizes Kevin Randall, town supervisor, to act as section 3 coordinator for the town's office for community development block grant project TBD housing rehabilitation program.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Newman,
Second.
by Mr. Facto. Roll call.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Facto?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yeah, so carried. Alright, another one. Resolution 22-71. A motion by, be it resolved that the town of Schuyler Falls Town Board authorizes Kevin Randall, town supervisor, to sign the section 3 plan adopted by the Schuyler Falls Town Board for the town's office of, for community development block grant project TBD housing rehabilitation program. Motion
Motion.
by Mr. Parati
Second.
and Mr. Newman. Roll call.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Facto?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes, so carried. Alright, this is actually a budget transfer. Resolution 22-72. Motion be resolved that the town board of the town of Schuyler Falls approves the following general fund budget transfers from A.1670.420 Central Printing Newsletters, $1,000, to A.6410.400 publicity contingency expenses of $1,000 to cover the cost of expense of the music in the park and the entertainment is what this is actually being moved for. So can I get a motion? Mr. Bruno,
Second.
by Mr. Facto, go ahead and do a roll call.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Mr. Facto?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes. So approved. Alright, resolution 22-73. This is to fill the positions that we need to on the ZBA board. Motion by, whereas Tom Carlson would like to step down to an alternate on the zoning board, and whereas Ryan Smith would like to serve as a member of the zoning board, it is therefore resolved that the town board appoints Tom Carlson as an alternate member of the zoning board, and the town board approves the appointment of Ryan Smith to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Tom Carlson, which will expire December 31st, 2025. Mr. Carlson has served for years and years on this committee. I want to thank him on the record for doing that. And it is only due to medical reasons of his wife and having to attend to her that he's moving down to alternate at this time. So that's all I got for discussion. Anybody else got anything? These names are picked by the board and brought to the ZBA board. I asked them to give us a couple names of who they thought they'd like to put on there, because they got to work with them. And then we have to naturally finally approve them. So,
Motion.
motion by Mr. Newman
Second.
and Mr. Parati. Roll call?
Discussion, please.
Oh, I just asked if there was any
Well, I
discussion.
was just
Go
going in
ahead.
order, that's all.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is where I'm having trouble, and certainly not with Ryan at all. I know Ryan, and it's not a problem at all with him, for sure. We, in past practice, when there's been vacancies on these boards, we have advertised. We've left it open for people who want to apply. Then after we did that, we got together and we discussed it. Now, I realize, Kevin, as supervisor, you name the chairman. That's your, as town supervisor. But this town board has been selecting members that way. Now, in this case, and for example, Mr. Dona, hate to bring him up again, but he contacted me regarding it. Because back when Mr. Potiker was supervisor, in December of 2019, there was an opening and he wanted to put him on that. And it's just been past procedure to put these open positions. There's never very many of them. They come up, and that's been the practice in the past. And I think it's a good practice. And that's really all I have to say to it. I certainly am not against Ryan Smith anyway.
Okay,
No.
so let me ask you, because I'm totally befuddled as to what you're actually asking for now, okay? So, because you went around a circle here, is Mr. Dona asking to be on the
He asked
ZBA?
3 years ago to be on.
3 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, because I went off of the old list that we had, and we did add another one that had asked, and we've been discussing this for the last, matter of fact, this poor gentleman has asked me 15 times in here what he had to
For
do,
2
and I
years
keep
ago.
on telling him,
For 2 years
and I
ago.
have said that on the record in here, Mr. Dona, that please submit your names to the ZBA board, and then they will forward their names to us, and then, yes, the board has final determination, not just me, on whether we approve whatever name comes forward. So I wish you would have told me that, or submitted something, because you're not even on that list that I got in there.
The thing is, when you advertise, you can get a list of qualified candidates that you all can discuss and see who's best suited for the job. And that seems like a fair way to do it.
Well,
No, there's-
And it-
that's up to the,
Zoning board.
it's been my personal, my personal opinion that the ZBA board should bring the names to us, and then we look at them. If we got a problem with any of the names that come up here during our discussion, and you want to table it, or if you don't want, this board doesn't get at least 3 out of the 5 to move the motion, the resolution forward, then we'll send it back to the ZBA board and say, hey, give us another couple names. But, yeah, I don't want to be the one telling them who they're working with. I don't mind looking at the names and seeing if I have, personally, my own vote on this board, whether I think I have a conflict with them, or whether I think they're good for the board or not. But I think it should come from them, because they all have to work together. And that doesn't, go any further than that. That I think that it should be that committee giving the reference of who they would like to. And matter of fact, I want to commend Mr. Carlson for going out and actually contacting these people and going to their houses and asking, before he even submitted these names to the ZBA board, to bring it to our board, and actually taking the time to discuss why they wanted to be on the ZBA board. He invited them to my understanding, the last ZBA board meeting, so they understood what they would be doing and the duties they would be asked to do, and to make sure I think he's did a very thorough job of what he's done.
Well, I can tell you with Mr. Carlton, as you know, I've been recording their sessions and stuff.
Mhm.
He's very good at what he does, very knowledgeable. He's gonna be a loss to that board.
I agree, 100%.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
do
said.
too.
So it wasn't any more than that, that I felt that they should submit those names rather than us just throw 2 people on their board that they have to work with, because we all have to work together.
Kevin, just 4 or 5 months ago, they were looking for people to put on
Yeah,
the
we've
board.
been looking. I mean, I didn't put it in the paper, I have put it on here, I have talked to, several people. Like I said, kind of letting the cat out of the bag ahead of time here, so it'll be the next resolution, but, you know.
How many spots are there?
There was one vacancy due to death, and then with Mr. Carlson, because of family medical issues, stepping down to alternate, this will fill that board. And he really, I asked him to stay on where he was actually, because he does a good job. I think he does. And I've been on the opposite end of his discussions, you know, in front of the ZBA board. But I still think he does a good job. And I asked him to stay on and just use the alternates until, you know, his medical, or his wife's medical issues.
So is there an ongoing list for people waiting to get on that board?
There was, and it started way back when Rick Potical was in there, and I can show that to you.
Sure.
So can we
Okay.
add Mr. Donut to that list?
Sure.
I was gonna say, could I ask this way?
Yep.
Is that if we could have an agreement, the next vacancy on either the planning board or zoning board of appeals, he'd like to be on either one, that we could agree to appoint him.
We
We
can't
can't do
wait for
that
them.
before the appointment is open. But what
they
you
have
can
to
do
vote
is
first.
give me a letter saying that
Right.
I will put it in, I'll show you the
I'll
folder.
ask him.
I got a folder in there for the ZBA board and the planning board, people that are interested, so that when we do have a vacancy, I can open that up, or whoever the supervisor is can open that up and then contact those people to see if they're still interested. Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Is there an age limit on that?
Oh,
Easy. He does not speak for the town. That last comment will be stricken from the record. So anyways, without further discussion, are you guys?
Is that okay with you?
Oh, sure,
Well,
yeah.
Okay, fine. Thank
he
you.
doesn't have a say in this board. You do, okay? So you gotta watch what you're saying up there.
Oh,
That will be
okay.
stricken from the record too. He doesn't get a
Strike
say.
it, all right, fine.
You can't do that stuff. All right,
And just to add to this, with names like volunteer, we can't even get we have 4 openings that we've advertised 3 different times, paid positions. We haven't got one person to
and
submit
the
anything.
season's over.
That's true.
And one of
Very
them
true.
is a full-time, pretty much part-time, but it was Danny's position, who worked all year long. We tried to add a second position to help everybody. And we were trying to put 2 extras on so we get some of the sidewalks cleaned up and the hydrants painted and the guardrails cleaned up. And we can't get anybody to
To
work.
highway.
Nobody wants to
Nobody's
work.
submitted.
Yeah, when have you seen a highway position go unanswered for months?
I just can't believe it.
Nobody wants to work.
The,
I shouldn't say that either on the record. It's hard to
Oh,
find
there you
people
go.
to work.
Strike it.
Strike it. No, I said it. It is. It's unfortunate that a lot of people are not. Just don't want to work. There's too much free money going out there right now.
especially the people in the town of Scholar Falls.
All right. Before I do get myself in trouble,
For
Reggie,
everybody else.
can we have a roll call vote on this thing?
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Facto?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes. So approved. See, every time Dylan talks, he gets us in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
All right, resolution 2274. Motion by, whereas there is a vacancy on the zoning board of appeals due to a death of a member, be it resolved that the town board appoints Michael Edmund, MD, excuse me, I apologize for messing up your name, MD, to the zoning board of appeals. I gotta figure out where I was now. I lost my whole chat. Appointment effective immediately to fill the unexpired term and to expire on December 31st of 2024. So, any further discussion? Actually, I need a motion. Let's start
Motion.
there. Mr. Facto
Second.
by Mr. Newton. Any discussion? Did we kill this one enough? All right, roll call.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Facto?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes. So approved. All right, congratulations.
Thank you.
No, you won't be thanking me after you go through a
Condolences.
few of those meetings.
Look forward to serving the town.
All right. But I appreciate your service to the town.
Can he
And I'm
go
sure
to the
the full board.
training with me and?
No.
Like, okay. He's a new member, he might as well go.
He could. Let's make sure the paperwork's all done and everything that we need to do. That won't be till October, so you should be good. All right, resolution 22-75. Motion by resolved that the town board of the town of Schuyler Falls authorizes the supervisor to sign the contract between the Teamsters Local 687 and the town of Schuyler Falls. Be it resolved that the contract is valid January 1st, 2023 through December 31st of 2025. Any discussion, because I just gave you the rest of it. The only change is going to be that top 2 pages where they renegotiated 2 separate articles in that contract. That's the only changes from the first preliminary budget that I gave you. So this is a tentative. If we vote on this tonight, it will become their new contract. Is there any discussion? If you want to discuss anything about this, I would urge that we went into executive session because it is a contract. But if there's no issues with what you've seen in front of you, then I would ask for somebody to make a motion.
Motion.
Mr. Bruno
I'll second.
and Mr. Newton. And is there any discussion? All right, let's do a roll call.
Mr. Newton?
Yes.
Mr. Parati?
Yes.
Mr. Bruno?
Yes.
Mr. Facto?
Yes.
Mr. Randall?
Yes, so unanimously approved. So you can tell Mr. England, he's got his contract. And so about the rest of them. Including the 2 that you need to hire yet.
Yeah.
Alright, maybe this will help out with your hire. You can show them what the new hiring rates are gonna be.
I sure will.
Alright, Town of Schuyler Falls Town Board regular meeting, resolution 2276. Motion by be it resolved that the Town of Schuyler Falls enter into an agreement with CST Group Incorporated for computer support and training in the amount of a one-time onboarding cost of $990 and an approximate monthly cost of $570. Now on this, let's start with a motion before we get to discussion. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move it.
Mr. Newman,
Yep, second.
Mr. Parati. Okay, under discussion, I will say that Mr. Newton and myself spent about, 4 hours that day, last Friday, with everything that needs to be updated. Some of the computer equipment is in need of an update. It's outdated. The reason that it's an approximate 570 right now, because they don't, until this girl comes in, this employee of theirs comes in and does that 900, is a set fee. $990 to look at all the computers, see what software, hardware needs to be, and the rest of the upgrades. This is basically the only thing we can go off until they get their finalized list of what we need to do up and running. But it shouldn't be much more than that 570.
How long is this contract?
You were there too, Howard. You got anything missing?
It's pretty much right now, unfortunately, the town is wide open to get hacked
Right.
globally.
Is this the lady that was here?
Yeah, so you all sat through. And one of the other issues that we don't have right now, and I will say that Carl has did a really very good job keeping up with what we had down here. Unfortunately, the new laws that were just passed put all the liability on the town supervisor and then the board. So we are supposed to have a book that says this is our domain, this is what this is what we're monitoring, this is who's monitoring it. I don't have any of that. They will create all that for us. They will do it. They will make sure we are in compliance with all state laws right off the bat.
In federal.
And federal laws, thank you. And right now, we are with a lot of it, but not with all of it. So one of the biggest things is that book.
Was there a time limitation? Was it a contract length?
Yes, 2 years, it's in there, Mike. If you
Okay.
look, I'm sorry, I should have told you. If you look at the next 2 back pages, that will explain what the contract is. Now this, it goes into, and it's contracts, I don't wanna say everything out front, in case you don't go with this, at least they don't know what they were providing for services, and it won't screw up a bid if we had to put a new one in.
How does this affect our webpage?
It's separate from the webpage, but it's integrated into the security because they would have to make sure that the webpage is also secured. Basically, anything that gets plugged in down here to the internet is covered under this contract with them. And Mr. Garso would have to work with them to make sure that that website's protected down here through there.
And he knows this?
They will take care of that.
Yep.
We do not have to handle that.
Has there been any more discussion with him and our progress or lack of?
Yeah, we can probably leave that to a work session, but, yeah, I did, and, actually, I was impressed because I put that on there, and Donna had just gotten back, and within 35 minutes, it was up on the website. He does need to work on that taskbar, he was supposed to be doing that today. I'm probably not using the right terminology, but so that it worked on your phone, you know? That's why you could see the front page, but you couldn't go anywhere with it. You just brought it right back to the front page because there's a thing up top that he didn't realize wasn't on there.
But I had somebody come in my office today.
Yep.
Wanted to find a simple time of when the offices are open and who was here.
Yeah, it's
And
not
he
on.
couldn't find it, it's not on there. And I do have to apologize because someone mentioned about my minutes. Before I left, August 4th, he came in, he zip drived, whatever you call it, all my files. He was gonna put the minutes on the website.
Yep.
I apologize, they're not there. So. I'm not impressed.
I haven't been since the beginning.
So anyways, that's a topic for another discussion because like I said, this is on this.
Now this, not the channel, I'm sorry, Howard. This CST group, are they local? They are still Malone, right?
Malone.
Long,
Okay.
and they serve, I think some places, I don't want to misspeak, but I think they're pretty much like Glen Falls down area. They few towns, matter of fact, one of the towns that they've been working with for over 20 years, and they still do their website. That's why Howard
So
and
if we
I
do
asked
have
about that,
problems, we
and
can
then all
get
of
to
a
them
sudden,
easy is all I'm
yes.
concerned about.
Matter of fact, if you look in there, and I don't want to cover all of their thing in case you guys vote this down, that we don't have any issues with that, but you're more welcome to take your time and read through that contract. Provides, this company provides quite a few things.
Yep.
In a very short time frame.
Monitor daily?
Yes. And the other part too is if we have a technical problem, say with the phone system,
Yeah.
we don't have to handle it. We get a hold of them, say our phone system is not working, they take care of it, so we're not the middle person.
Yeah, because she goes, that's what happens, and she's absolutely right, and I don't, everybody knows who we use for phone service down here, and I'd like to switch them myself, because I haven't been impressed with them.
No, our phone
But
systems
she goes,
aren't working.
this, you know, it's their fault, or their fault doesn't happen, because it would be us working directly with them, and then telling you this is what we had to do to fix the problem.
Same thing with all our computers and everything else. We get a problem like this goes down,
They pretty much take over.
we tell them, this is done, down, they contact the company, we get this fixed.
Was that,
And-
Sean was the other guy's name? I think he was
Yes.
here Friday. Lisa and Sean were here for over 4 hours, 4.5 hours. They didn't charge us. They went through everything. They're very knowledgeable, and I was thoroughly impressed. Of course, it don't take a lot to impress me with electronics because I'm not real good with them. But she was. I mean, he went on the computer and just.
Yep.
It was amazing. Of course, I get amazed because, like I said, I'm not a tech guy. But they definitely have good references. they definitely have been working for towns for over 20 years, and that was one of the things that she said, like your website, we will work with them.
Good.
You know, do what we need to do to protect that area also.
And the monthly fee also covers, I think they came up with, we thought we had like 7 or 8 computers. I think the total count came up to 12 or 13. Plus everything in the server room and all the other apparatus attached to it, Wi-Fi hookups and everything else.
Gas, hookups, all of it.
And
She covered everything.
that includes the monitoring of it and just one fine alone for either not having this in place or having a hack doesn't compare at all to what the annual cost is through them to take care of it for us.
No, just the fines alone, much less if you lost $3 or $4 million out of a bank account down here. So, yeah, so they impressed the heck out of me. Hopefully they impressed you. That's why I had her speak. And
Now,
that's
we
why-
kinda mentioned something to her before when she was here. I mean, I hate to step on and use names, but Mr. Garso, we were talking to her, possibility of she knowing someone that
She
maybe
has-
can pick up the load that we're not getting done.
Right, she has, references that we can utilize, she'd be willing to do. I don't wanna put her on a spot, or anybody else on a spot.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
One of the things I got from her is because of the investment that we have already, she would like to take the chance or the steps to work with Mr. Garcel and get this up and running. And
Is
if
Mr.
not-
Garso willing to accept the help?
That will be between the discussion between this company and
And that.
Mr. Garcel,
It takes us right out of it.
and she will come back to us and let us know, yes or no, whether,
And the good thing about it, Vern, is that he, you know, anybody can tell me pretty much anything they want about computers, and I'm gonna say, okay, yeah, that sounds good, okay, yeah. But those people aren't going to do that with her,
Because she knows.
because she knows it.
Okay, good.
So if she's willing to work with him and he's willing to work with her, but we can't do that until we hire them. And then it takes it right at him, and then I'm not getting just one side of the equation, I'm getting 2 sides of the equation to make a real good decision back to the board with, and let you guys make a decision. But I was, like I said, I was impressed. They went through everything down there. So, if there's no other discussion, and we got a motion, and we got a second, let's do a roll call.
Mr. Newton,
yes.
Mr. Parati,
Yes.
Mr. Bruno,
Yes.
Mr. Facto,
Yes.
Mr. Randall.
Yes. They are approved, and I'll take the contract tomorrow.